Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
See? Wash. Forward.
No, my mama. No.
What was supposed to be a simple grandma moment turned into a full-blown family firestorm. And by the time the internet realized what was happening, it was already too late. Because when Blueface's mom Karlissa touched that hair, she didn't just grab shampoo. She grabbed the narrative, the timeline, and every unresolved family tension that's been quietly simmering for years. This wasn't a spa day. This wasn't bonding. This was one of those moments that looks harmless until you zoom out and realize it hit every single nerve at once. And the internet. Oh, the internet clocked it immediately. Screenshots started flying. Clips got replayed. Comment sections split like a political debate. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion on boundaries, respect, and who really gets to make decisions when it comes to journey. What made it worse was who did it. Because Karlissa doesn't just exist in this family story. She narrates it loudly, publicly, and with zero filter. So when that hair washing moment surfaced, people didn't see water and conditioner. They saw a power move, a message. A line crossed in for K. This spiraled fast. Too fast for damage control. Too fast for explanations. And before anyone could calm it down, it turned into something much bigger than hair. What should have been the most harmless family moment imaginable somehow detonated like a smoke bomb in the middle of an already tense room. A grandmother washing her granddaughter's hair is usually the kind of thing people smile about, maybe even romanticize, like one of those nostalgic moments you tuck away for later. But this wasn't a Hallmark scene. This was Karlissa. This was Blueface's family ecosystem. And in that universe, nothing exists in a vacuum, especially not when cameras, opinions, and history are involved. The clip didn't look explosive at first glance, which is exactly why it caught fire. No yelling, no obvious chaos, just Karlissa doing what she framed as basic care. But the internet doesn't just watch what's happening. It watches who is doing it, why they're doing it, and what it might mean in the context of every unresolved argument that came before. And when people saw Karlissa's hands in Journey's hair, the reactions weren't about conditioner. They were about control. Karlissa has never been a background character. She's loud, opinionated, unapologetic, and permanently online. She doesn't just react to drama. She narrates it, inserts herself into it, and sometimes lights the match just to see who panics first. So when this moment surfaced, nobody believed it was accidental. It felt intentional, even if that intention was never spelled out. And the internet hates nothing more than a move that looks subtle but feels strategic. The first wave of reactions was confusion. People asking what the issue even was. Why was everyone upset over hair? Why were boundaries suddenly trending? That confusion didn't last long because context arrived, and it arrived fast. Clips from the past resurfaced. Old arguments, old tension, old moments where family lines were clearly drawn and then crossed anyway. Suddenly, the hair wash wasn't a moment. It was a chapter. Critics immediately framed it as overstepping. Not malicious, not abusive, but invasive. A grandmother asserting herself in a space that wasn't hers to claim. Supporters pushed back hard, accusing everyone of turning basic childcare into a witch hunt. The divide formed instantly, and once the internet splits into teams, there's no neutral ground left. You're either defending boundaries or defending blood ties. There is no middle. Karlissa, of course, didn't retreat. Retreat has never been her brand. Instead, she leaned into the moment, responding the way she always does, with confidence, deflection, and a heavy dose of "I did nothing wrong." That response only poured fuel on the fire. Because in situations like this, tone matters. And her tone wasn't apologetic. It was defiant. People started asking questions that had nothing to do with hair. Who was present? Who gave permission? Who wasn't consulted? Those questions weren't answered clearly, which meant the internet answered them instead. And the answers weren't generous. They were suspicious, speculative, and emotionally charged. Suddenly, this wasn't about what happened. It was about what people believed happened. The commentary ecosystem went to work immediately. Thumbnails appeared with dramatic wording, turning a quiet clip into a full-blown scandal. Boundaries crossed. This wasn't her place. Family drama explodes. It didn't matter that nobody was yelling on camera. The story was louder than the footage. And once the narrative takes over, the visuals become secondary. What made this situation extra combustible was Journey herself, a child caught in the middle of adult dynamics she has no control over. That alone raised the emotional stakes. Viewers weren't just reacting as fans anymore. They were reacting as parents, as former children, as people with opinions shaped by their own family histories. Projection flooded the comments. Everyone saw themselves in the situation, which made them feel personally invested. Karlissa's past behavior didn't help her case. Fair or not, reputation matters online. And when someone has a history of public conflict, every action gets filtered through that lens. People weren't judging the hair wash in isolation. They were judging it as another Karlissa moment, another example, another flashpoint, another reason for people to say, "Here we go again." The responses grew sharper. Some accused her of intentionally provoking a reaction. Others insisted she was being unfairly targeted. The debate spiraled into discussions about respect, grandparents' rights, and whether family bonds excuse certain behavior. None of those conversations reached resolution because resolution isn't the goal. Engagement is. Meanwhile, silence from other family members spoke louder than any statement could. No immediate clarification. No united front. Just absence. And in internet storytelling, absence is suspicious by default. People read into who didn't speak, who didn't post, who didn't defend. Every missing voice became part of the narrative. What really escalated things was how quickly the moment was reframed. What started as hair care was rebranded as a power play, a message, a subtle assertion of authority in a family already defined by tension. Whether that interpretation was fair didn't matter. It was compelling. And compelling stories spread faster than accurate ones. By the end of this phase, the clip had transformed completely. It wasn't a video anymore. It was a symbol, a stand-in for deeper issues that had been bubbling under the surface for years. And once a moment becomes symbolic, it stops being about facts. It becomes about meaning. Karlissa didn't just wash Journey's hair. She stepped into a minefield of unresolved family dynamics, public scrutiny, and internet judgment. And whether she meant to or not, that moment cracked something open that wasn't ready to be handled quietly. Once the clip escaped its original context, the situation stopped belonging to the family and officially became internet property. That's when things went from awkward to explosive. Because the internet doesn't observe family drama, it drafts itself into it. And within hours, timelines were split, comment sections were at war, and everyone suddenly had a PhD in boundaries, parenting, and what I would never allow. Reaction channels circled like vultures that smelled fresh engagement. Thumbnails popped up overnight, freezing Karlissa mid-expression, arrows pointing dramatically at shampoo bottles like they were evidence in a courtroom. Titles promised chaos, disrespect, and secret motives. Some creators played it straight, acting shocked and concerned. Others leaned into sarcasm, joking that a hair wash had somehow become the most controversial salon appointment of the year. Either way, clicks were flowing, memes followed immediately, because when the internet doesn't know how to process discomfort, it turns it into humor. Screenshots of the clip were paired with captions about family hair day gone wrong. Reaction GIFs flooded Twitter and Instagram. People laughed, then argued about whether laughing was disrespectful, which somehow made the memes spread even faster. Nothing fuels virality like moral confusion. Public outrage grew legs when the conversation shifted from what happened to what it represented. This wasn't just about hair anymore. It became about power. about who gets to make decisions, about whether being a grandmother automatically gives you access without limits. And once those questions hit the timeline, the debate stopped being about this family and turned into a proxy war for everyone's unresolved family issues. Supporters of Karlissa framed her as a loving grandmother being unfairly attacked for doing something completely normal. They accused critics of reaching, of projecting trauma, of turning everyday care into scandal because it involved a controversial family. According to them, this was a non-story blown up by people who already disliked her and were waiting for an excuse. The other side wasn't buying it. To them, this was textbook overstepping. Not dramatic, not abusive, but intentional. A quiet move that said, "I'm in charge," whether anyone liked it or not. They pointed to Karlissa's history of inserting herself into family conflicts and argued this wasn't accidental. In their eyes, it was a calculated moment designed to send a message without saying a word. The debate became loud, repetitive, and deeply personal. Parents argued with non-parents. Grandparents argued with adult children. People brought their own family trauma into the comments like receipts from a past argument they never got to win. Everyone felt justified. Nobody felt heard. And the algorithm rewarded the chaos by pushing it further. Karlissa's response didn't de-escalate anything. Instead of apologizing or clarifying boundaries, she doubled down on her right to care for her granddaughter. The tone was confident, unbothered, almost dismissive of criticism. And for her supporters, that energy was refreshing. For her critics, it was confirmation. The same words landed completely differently depending on which side you were already on. Silence from other key family members only intensified speculation. No immediate statements, no unified explanation, just gaps. And gaps online are dangerous. People filled them with assumptions, theories, and narratives that quickly hardened into facts through repetition. By the time anyone could have clarified, the story had already outgrown the truth. Even people completely unrelated to the family weighed in. Influencers used it as a talking point about boundaries. Parenting pages debated it in comment threads. It became content for people who didn't even know who Karlissa was, because the scenario itself was relatable enough to spark opinion. That's when you know a story has fully escaped its origin. The tone of coverage escalated. What started as confusion turned into judgment. Judgment turned into condemnation. Some accused Karlissa of intentionally provoking drama to stay relevant. Others accused the internet of bullying an older woman for existing loudly. Both sides claimed moral high ground, and neither one slowed down long enough to listen. What made this phase especially chaotic was how fast misinformation spread. People misquoted statements. Clips were edited without context. One person's interpretation turned into another person's headline. Corrections, when they appeared at all, were ignored. The damage was already done. Outrage had momentum, and momentum doesn't stop for accuracy. As the debate raged, the child at the center of it all faded into the background. Journey became a symbol instead of a person, which is always when things get uncomfortable. The conversation wasn't really about her well-being anymore. It was about adult egos, public perception, and winning an argument online. That realization made some people uneasy, but not enough to log off. By the end of this stage, the story felt heavier, less funny, less trivial. People sensed that this wasn't just a viral moment that would disappear in a day or two. Relationships were clearly strained. Trust was being questioned. And whatever calm existed before the clip was gone, the internet hadn't just reacted. It had taken sides, dug trenches, and turned a private family issue into a public referendum. And once that happens, there's no walking it back quietly. By the time the noise started to fade, the damage had already been done. Not the loud, explosive kind that burns out quickly, but the slow, lingering kind that changes how people move around each other. The hair had dried, the clip stopped trending, but the tension, That settled in permanently, like humidity you can't shake no matter how many windows you open. Karlissa didn't retreat from the spotlight, but something shifted. The confidence was still there, the posture still strong, but now it came with resistance. Every post, every comment, every appearance was filtered through the aftermath. People weren't reacting to what she was doing anymore. They were reacting to what they believed she represented. To some, she was still a loving grandmother unfairly dragged. To others, she had become the embodiment of cross lines and unchecked influence. Public perception hardened into labels, and labels stick. Once the internet decides you're that kind of person, it doesn't matter how many explanations you offer. Everything you do becomes evidence for a story already written. Karlissa wasn't being watched for clarity. She was being watched for confirmation. And that's the most dangerous audience of all. Family dynamics felt the pressure immediately. The kind of pressure that doesn't always show up as public arguments, but as distance, as silence, as people choosing not to post together, as moments that used to be shared suddenly going private. In internet culture, absence is never neutral. It's read as fallout, whether that's accurate or not. What made it more uncomfortable was the realization that this situation didn't create new issues. It exposed existing ones. The hair wash wasn't the problem. It was the spark. The match that landed on a pile of unresolved tension that had been stacked neatly for years. Boundaries that were never clearly defined. Roles that were never fully respected. Power dynamics that were never actually addressed, just danced around. Commentary channels adjusted their tone again. Some shifted to aftermath analysis, breaking down what this means moving forward like they were covering the final episode of a season. Others doubled down on outrage, convinced the story still had legs if they kept running hard enough. The machine didn't slow. It recalibrated. What became obvious was how uncomfortable the audience felt with itself. People started questioning whether they had gone too far, but not enough to stop engaging. There's a strange guilt that sets in when a viral moment stops being entertaining and starts feeling invasive. You don't want to look away, but you also don't want to admit you're watching someone's family strain in real time. Journey, once again, faded into the background of the conversation. Not because she mattered less, but because she mattered too much to fit into the internet's appetite for argument. She became the unspoken reason behind every comment, every take, every accusation, without ever being the focus. And that contradiction sat heavy with people who were still paying attention. Karlissa's reputation took on a sharper edge. Even supporters had to acknowledge that her presence changes dynamics. That when she enters a situation, it doesn't stay simple. That history matters, whether people think it should or not. And critics leaned into that narrative hard, framing this moment as proof that certain patterns don't change, they just repeat with new settings. What lingered was the lack of resolution. No apology that satisfied everyone. No explanation that closed a book. No clean ending where all sides agreed to move on. Just a quiet understanding that something had shifted, and pretending otherwise would feel dishonest. The internet hates ambiguity, but real life thrives on it. As time passed, the story settled into the background, resurfacing whenever Karlissa's name popped up for any reason. A new post, a new comment, a new appearance. Someone would inevitably say, "Remember when?" And just like that, the moment was alive again, reshaped by memory and bias. This wasn't just a viral family argument. It became a reminder of how quickly private moments become public property, and how easily care gets reframed as control once an audience gets involved. It showed how fame doesn't just magnify actions. It magnifies interpretations. And once those interpretations take hold, they're nearly impossible to undo. The biggest consequence wasn't outrage. It was erosion. Trust eroded. Patience eroded. The benefit of the doubt eroded. And erosion doesn't announce itself loudly. It just quietly changes the landscape until nothing feels the same anymore. In the end, the hair wash wasn't remembered for what happened in the room. It was remembered for what happened online, for the arguments it sparked, for the sides it forced people to choose, for the way it exposed fault lines that were already there, just waiting for pressure. And that's the part that sticks. Not the clip, not the comments, not the memes, but the understanding that in families already living under a microscope, even the smallest moments can explode into something unrecognizable. And this right here is why moments like this never stay small. Because once the internet gets involved, even a simple act can turn into a full-blown referendum. What looked like a grandmother washing her granddaughter's hair ended up pulling every unresolved family issue into the spotlight. And now there's no pretending it didn't happen. This story didn't end with the clip. It just unlocked the next chapter. So don't sit there acting neutral, because I know you've got an opinion. Drop it in the comments right now. Was this blown completely out of proportion? Or were boundaries quietly crossed in a way people don't want to admit? Was Karlissa being a loving grandma? Or was this another example of control disguised as care? Say it with your whole chest, because the comment section is where the real debate lives. Now smash that like button like it owes you money. Because every single like tells the algorithm you want the unfiltered breakdowns, not the sugar-coated versions. And if you're not subscribed yet, that's on you. Hit subscribe now before the next family meltdown drops and you're left catching up in the comments. Because over here, nothing stays hidden. Private moments go public. Silence gets interpreted. And family drama doesn't fade, it evolves. New mess, new sides, new moments that make the last one look tame. Stay tapped in, stay vocal, stay messy in the comments. This is Celeb SYNC, where family business meets the timeline. And the internet always chooses chaos.